and being able to draw something out. Stranger Things had a beginning, middle, and end for season 1. Yes, they had nothing after that. That was my point.
And which is wild because like you had your 2 years of going into your second season that could have been outlining your next whatever season that you're supposed to be doing, right?
Right.
Yeah, early on they could have gotten away with it, because if you now are being asked to extend it, then now you have to think about the macro in a different way. Oh, okay, so they need 4 more years, so now I need to come up with an arc that will accommodate such a demand.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they could have just came up with another story. Instead, they dragged this thing out.
Yeah,
and I think that, and honestly, that's what I'm saying about the skill piece. Like there's a way to skillfully do it if okay, cool. We're gonna go after this money, but can we do it in an intelligent way that doesn't mangle? Like the first season was very watchable, it was very good, and as it got closer to the end, like I didn't even realize I didn't finish the 4th season because I had lost interest. And so I barreled through the last half of the 4th season and then got to the 2nd or 3rd episode of the 5th season. And I was like, I don't care about this anymore. Like, I can't make myself watch this.
Yeah, it's I have the same problem with I have the same problem with anime sometimes, but yeah, that's not the next
like first season of Psycho Pass is genius. Second season is garbage. They really only needed to do the first season, and they should have left it at that. But Psycho Pass took off. It got really popular, and so people, the distributor asked for another season, and they did it, and very nearly ruined what was a perfect TV series in the first season.
What's the name of the show again?
Yeah.
Psycho Pass anime. Psycho Pass is a brilliant brilliant murder mystery.
Huh? Yeah, One Punch got that same. One Punch got that.
Yeah, same deal with One Punch, bro. Like it's just
Switch studios and writers, and the shit just went off the rails.
Like if you don't have another good idea, then you just don't. If you're not confident in coming up with a better idea, or at least as good as the first, then you don't go ahead and just barrel through, because then you just ruining the legacy. Like,
but Josh, I have this $20 million, dude. What am I gonna do with it?
Doug, say less. If you throw $20 million at me, I'm gonna do my diligence and make sure that it's something that holds up. Like, I'm not just gonna throw garbage out there. I'm not gonna say I'm not saying say no to the dough. That's $20 million. I got $20 in my bank account right now. So you're multiplying that quantum. Yeah, sure, I'm gonna say yes, but I'm gonna also take my time. Like, yo, you're gonna have to give me a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna have to hold off on another season for like 2 years, 3 years, while I craft a proper story.
Yeah,
but they didn't do that. They just stretched it out of
in that case, you're damned if you do.
You know what I'm saying?
In that situation, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if you're talking about, which is why I said, going back to the beginning, it does not work unless you have that outline at the beginning. Because if you have to slow down and take 3 years to figure it out, now you're losing your audience because you just giving them an entire gap between the end of where the story leaves off and where it might pick up. So again, I come back to
they could have closed it out and come up with an additional story, not the same story stretched out over 5 seasons. But there wasn't enough there.
Yeah,
that wasn't the demand from Netflix, obviously.
Yeah, Netflix, they were like, "Give me more 11, give me more of this, give me more of this."
Yes, they wanted the stuff that they could brand and sell T-shirts and toys and stuff.
No. I'm not saying come up with a completely different show. Keep it Stranger Things. Just come up with another thing.
Yeah, but I say
or outline it at the beginning.
Exactly.
Well, in a perfect world, yes, outline it at the beginning. But I think they didn't know that it was going to become what it became, so they only had the one story.
Strive for Breaking Bad or Strive for Breaking Bad or Babylon 5. That strategy works because
Yes,
you know where your story is going to go.
Yes, you're 100% right. If that's the goal at the beginning, but I think they had the idea of a short story, for lack of a better term. And so it was just the one season, and it would have been fine with one season. So I'm saying, cool. They want more. I'm gonna give you a different story with the same characters.
Yeah,
we just make it die hard,
that shows their lack of writing.
Yeah,
that's also not. You obviously know that's not always an option either. Too, the studio at the end of the day, the studio, Netflix executives are going to say, you either do it this way or you don't do it at all.
Like, that is very true because they are very gangster that way.
Yeah, we know that for a fact based on working at the different networks we've met. Like, you could say, "Oh, I would rather go this way," and they're going to be like, "But there's no 11, there's no nosebleeds, there's no upside down." They're going to go there.
In my opinion, you could do all that stuff with the same characters. You could keep 11, and she's still there.
Yeah, and to go from an actual production situation, right? So say, for instance, it dropped on 2016, and then season 2 dropped October 2017. So about 18 months after, right? So with that production schedule and all that, you're right. It seems, and it's funny because even watching the behind the scenes joint, it made it even worse. It's just like, we had this cool idea. We pitched it. We got money to make it. And then we're like, fuck, we got to do 3 more seasons. All right, let's figure that out. And they just didn't figure out in a way that was cohesive. But just like D'Angelo said, if at the beginning they were like, all right, this is a story we want to tell in this many beats. Instead, they were just like, I have this one idea, and it never went from there. And I would say the fact that they meandered was more apparent on their own creative storytelling, because if they were approaching it with like, this is a one and done, like a Watchmen is a great example, right? One and done, told the story they wanted to do, and then they're like, let's keep it moving. But for this one, if you're going to be doing that, and they did the turnaround in about 18 months, which in Netflix is unheard of. And then from there, everything went from 2 years, which is kind of crazy. But also budgets were going wild as well, and all that kind of stuff. So
I would say to this, when I think back at when Lucas created Star Wars, he created this one epic story that was too long to be digested in one sit down, and it was broken up into 3 chapters, but it was a complete story. Whereas from what you guys are talking about, and from what I've seen, a lot of writers have written stories with no intention or thoughts of getting picked up for multiple seasons. Yep. To them, I would say, hold on, let me get this point off before I forget. To them, I would say, write your story, complete it. And I get it, there's a money issue. Take the time. If they say, okay, you have a story for 1 or 2 seasons, and you as a writer said, that's the end of my story. Now, the ultimate motivator is money. And they come and say, hey, we want to create a 3rd season. You got to make a decision there and be like, do I want this money? And write a cohesive story without being rushed. There has to be some guidelines. I don't know if whoever's coming to these people and like, we need you to write this story in this. And the writer, if they are capable of do it, but if they're not capable, you need to take some time to write a fleshed out story. There has to be boundaries set from the writer and the networks to understand if you want this thing to be successful and keep the fan base going, we have to write a cohesive narrative that makes sense in a complete form instead of rushing stuff. Because you can't go in it saying, I'm just writing this with the opportunity for more, because you may not get picked up. You have to have a complete story. So I don't mind if there's a one-off season of something and you'd be like, all right, that's the end. Cool. It was a good story. I don't need more seasons of this. You know?
I think with the Duffers, they went in it with it. At that time with Netflix, there was no apparent strategy or mode of how they did things. So probably what I imagine would happen is the Duffers pitched them Stranger Things as a standalone story, a beginning, middle, and end, as we saw in the first season. And then the success was so that Netflix didn't want to give it up that quickly.
Yeah.
So they asked them to extend the story. And they are not going to admit that their abilities are limited in that regard. And you're only going to see that as time goes on, which is exactly what happened. They especially in that last season, they're very limited in what they were able to build from what they had. But in most cases, it's rare that someone will pitch something that thought out. That's why I named those examples, Breaking Bad and Babylon 5, because those are the only two that I can think of where the J. Michael Straczynski and Vince Gilligan both went in with another one is Eric Kripke with Supernatural. They all went in with here's the concept, here's the pitch, this is how we start, and here's the 5-year plan or arc for this character, their story, their journey. This is where it begins, this is where it picks up, or it gets to the most tension, the stakes are high, and then this is where it resolves itself. And the same thing happened with Supernatural. CW at the end of the 5th season, Supernatural was so hot, such a big ratings deal for them. CW is like, we don't want to end it. And Eric Kripke is like, well, I only wrote 5 years, so you guys can stretch it however you feel. You own it, obviously, so you can do with it as you please. But I only wrote enough material for the 5 seasons. So, that's, and same with, again, JMS. He wrote a world Bible for a 5-year arc. Breaking Bad, same thing. It would go 5 seasons, but that would be in the time of the story that would take place over a year and a half of narrative in the world. And same with 24. 24 is another one that did the same thing.
Oh God, yeah.
And so looking it up, basically Stranger Things was kind of the old school way, right? They had a pilot written, script written, and they had a 20-page pitch book, and then they shopped it around to 15 networks. Netflix is the one that picked it up for the full series, and then now we know the rest of the things like gangbusters. What I was actually going to add in too was I was going to bring in that clip that our boy Affleck was talking about, about AI stuff, and I thought it was actually pretty dope. Hold up.
His takes on AI are excellent these days. Like
because what I see is, for example, if you try to get ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to write you something, it's really shitty. And it's shitty because by its nature, it goes to the mean, to the average. And it's not reliable. And I just can't even stand to see what it writes. Now, it's a useful tool if you're a writer and you're going, what's the thing? I'm trying to set something up, or somebody sends someone a letter, but it's delayed 2 days and it can give you some examples of that. I actually don't think it's very likely that it's going to be able to write anything meaningful, and in particular, that it's going to be making movies like from whole cloth, like Tilly Norwood. Like, that's bullshit. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it turns out the technology is not progressing in exactly the same way they sort of present it.
Yeah. And, he goes on and that, but I like that at the very least, he's kind of he's giving a more nuanced thing where he's like, yo, people are going to use it as a tool. If they use it as a tool, some of the shitty shit's going to come out. Is it going to replace wholesale certain things? But then at a point it could, but he's like, I kind of agree with him on that, right? Where this is the more nuanced take I've heard someone say in Hollywood.
The current iteration of AI is assistive. Generative AI at the end of the day is an assistive tool. Anything beyond that, and you're not even getting diminishing returns, you're getting a shitty product. And he's one of the few people that gets that. And I've seen 3 other interviews. This is the 4th. I've seen 3 other. I haven't seen the whole one of this interview, but the other 3 interviews, like I saw clips and then wound up tracking down the whole talk. And he's probably one of the few people in Hollywood that completely understands the assistive nature of this current iteration of AI. Gen AI is only there as its main purpose. You can get it to do other stuff, but at the end of the day, it's at its peak best when it's an assistive tool. And you just need to know how to prompt it to do those things. And if you try to push beyond those boundaries, you get really garbage results.
It's a key thing you said there, Josh. You said one of the few people within Hollywood. Now, outside of Hollywood, this sentiment is highly talked about the limits of AI and ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah.
So to parallel that example to a real world scenario of your resume, it does help you to enhance an assistive tool to spruce up your resume, make it half short, twice strong type of stuff. However, I look at the current ChatGPT AI movement like I look at self-driving cars. We're not there yet. I don't believe in it yet because we're still working within a sandbox. The thing about ChatGPT and AI right now is that it's still scraping from somewhere. It has not got enough information to scrape to formulate all the ideas and all the scenarios.
Well, it's
to give you the average.
So hold on. It's less that, and you're on the right track, but it's less that and more that it doesn't have the iterative computing power. Like it's not designed to. So ChatGPT supposedly has, among the different AI models, probably the deepest knowledge base in terms of the amount of data that's been dumped, the amount of information that's been dumped into it. However, it doesn't know how to formulate larger ideas. Like he said, if you from an assistive standpoint, you can program it or prompt it to do what a certain number of things, but it's not designed beyond the point of an assistive tool. Like once you try to get out of that, it doesn't do those things. So, until we have quantum computing wholesale, where it's not only it's available, because quantum computing right now, to power quantum computing, you probably gonna have to shut down a city. Like with all the electrical power
with that example, I heard the same thing. It's not able to take multiple commands and make these ideas. If you give it one specific command with specific rules and specific directions, it can do that very well. But if you have a tool to be interior design, and you say, I want you to make a kitchen to do this, I want the living room, this, it won't be able to do that.
No.
You give it one. So I understand what you're saying. It's one specific command, one specific rule, and it has to be very direct. It's almost like you're speaking to a child.
Yeah, 100% like you're speaking to, not even a little bit like. It's exactly like you're speaking to a child. It doesn't know anything until you give it parameters and instructions to follow. And that can only be taken but so far. You need to be able to recognize what the limitations of the product and what you need to be able to understand its iterative process. And once you're able to do that, you understand what it can do and what it can't. And that's why I think this next, to pivot slightly, I think this next SAG-AFTRA negotiation is going to be way different, because now these dum-dums have a better grasp of how AI works, what it can do for them and what it can't. And so now when SAG-AFTRA comes with its demands that you do this and you can't do that, and you need to get permission for this and all this other jazz, these cats have a better idea of what it can do now. And so their counter demands and what they want are going to be a little bit more ironclad and grounded in reality now that they've had 3 years to sort of grind through, push it through the paces. And like, I want it to make me a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. And when you realize it can't do that, you scale down what it is you request for it to do. And you realize it can't cook, then, all right, cool. What can it do? And, what I've peeped over the last 3 years of unemployment is Netflix, companies like Netflix, when you look at their hirings, it's all machine learning and large language model and data scientist based positions. When work started to get a little lean, they had a lot of post-production positions, a lot of production positions, a lot of graphic designer, all the usual stuff that you see. And within 6 months to a year, that all disappeared. and it all was replaced with large language model driven, data scientist driven, machine learning driven positions. Those and software engineer positions. Those are 4 things that you will see everywhere in every state that Netflix has a foothold. Those are the only positions that they've been hiring for. And I mean only. It's all in
I worked at Snap, and that was a big thing for them, right? Like their machine learning right now and all technology is a very high. Like if you're a machine learning software engineer, or take that back, if you're just an engineer, period, you got to learn machine learning just at a certain level, and then they'll throw dumps of money on you. Like OpenAI is hiring like gangbusters right now because they got an influx of cash and they're doing a massive hiring. So a lot of my recruiter friends went to OpenAI for an obscene amount of money. Will this be able to last? Will this be able to last? Absolutely not. But if I'm there, I get a job for $500,000 and I'm at OpenAI for a year, I'm like, Kate, do what I got to do. But they're also working their asses off. So it's been interesting to see specifically in tech about that.
To that last point that you made, is it going to last forever? It's already waning, because those same jobs that I've been seeing for the last 2 years at Netflix have all started to slowly dwindle away and disappear. And the only thing I'm seeing now is software engineer joints. Like it's the large language model and machine learning joints almost completely gone. But
I would say
best believe Netflix was paying like $325,000 to $500,000 for those jobs at one point. So, but now the bottom has fallen out. They realize they don't need all of that because they know what the top knows what it can and can't do. And so now that they have a better understanding of how to implement it within their ecosystem, they're like, all right, let's back off on all these hirings for all these AI-based positions. They figured out what it can do and what it can't do. So now they don't need all of them cats.
But what were you saying, Cam?
When you guys said it was waning, I don't think it's going to disappear, but I think that there's going to be a regression to the mean. It's going to filter out where, again, we're going to use it for its limited resource until it either improves or stay where it's at. It's going to be stagnant. It's like the Wild West. Anything in technology, when it's open, everybody's jumping on it. It's the new wave. But then when we start to dig a little bit deeper and we actually have a deeper understanding of it, we start to filter out the noise and we start to see the tool for what it really is and how we can really use it. And the realistic, especially with job opportunities, there is a kind of a musical chairs aspect to that. You know, everybody's jumping on this new wave and they're telling you, you can't avoid it. Of course we can't avoid it. It's kind of been here. We've been using AI for a long time. You talk to your phone, that's kind of the AI type of deal, right? So with that type of technology, you just got to see if you can predict where it could potentially go and jump on it and get paid. And then if it stays, cool. But if it does not pay you, jump out, jump ship. Because again, all these jobs that were presented in the beginning for all these grandiose ideas of where it potentially could go, what Josh said is like, it's kind of waning, it's kind of downsized. It's kind of like, oh, we don't need this type of help. This is what we really need it for. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game of how can you get in, capitalistic, get your money, get out, or get in, innovate, make something cool, and see how it goes. So it's a very nuanced conversation about where this type of technology is heading, especially within film. Like when we talked about the AI generated actor being a fellow thespian and somebody that did work behind the camera, I kind of joked. I was just like, that's not gonna last. Because again, there's so much nuanced things that you go to school and you learn how to act in front of a camera that you can't teach AI. You can't teach, like when you're in front of the camera.
It's an intuitive art. And AI doesn't have that.
Yeah, what I'm going to end on is when the subtle movements in a camera that you can catch, AI can't do that yet. You know, sometimes a lot is being said without being said. On the stage is a whole different ballgame. You're really acting, you know. So
and then now they're doing and like I've been one of my homies is like he's dude out in Geneva, but he's like deep in the AI like generation stuff, right? Gen AI, anyways. And so he always like shows me stuff that when people start doing narratives around with their generative AI stuff. And so out of all of it, it's still, again, quote unquote, not there yet, right? There's pieces on it where I can see, oh yeah, this is what you guys this is what your storyboard is going to be for making something real or something to that effect, or things people are using it as placeholders. So even in television pitches, folks that I'm talking to, they're like, yeah, a lot of people are just using Gen AI to pad their pitch so they can, hey, I can just generate the kind of image I want to give the appearance of what I want to do. But like I said, a wholesale TV show or a wholesale animation animation, I could see it faster than anything else. But it still takes a shit ton of computing power because like we've seen shorts and the longest animation AI generated short that I've seen that was pretty decent was about 4 minutes. But like even then that would take a shit ton of computing power and all that.
Yeah,
so
and that's why
like the machine learning jobs are not going away at all. They're still a good one. Like even for talking about Snap, 1/3 of their engineering jobs are all machine learning. But the wholesale like slap AI on everything and give me some money, that's starting to slowly go down a bit. But it's still getting propped up by like billions of billions because OpenAI is not profitable, but they got so much cash to burn, and that's what they're doing right now.
Well, I think what we saw at the start was what used to happen in the 90s, which was, you get your Microsoft you get a Microsoft certification, and you don't even have to necessarily have it apply to your job. But if you have it on your resume that you're a Microsoft certified whatever, and that could be like anything, like just the base certification means you know how to use a computer back then. And people were getting like whole like 6-figure upgrades back then. It's the same deal. Like you don't necessarily have to and the equivalent to that now is, being able to like my AI certification made me a little bit more attractive to recruiters. And so for a small stretch, when I threw my certification up on my LinkedIn, recruiters were asking me straight up, hey, do you know large language modeling? Do you know machine learning? Are you a data scientist? Like all the questions. Like They were like, yo, because if you do, we could hook you up with this and that and that and that and that. And I'm like, yo, I know AI and I know media technology. I can do work in those areas, but in terms of like large language modeling, no, I don't know that, and I don't need to know it to do my job. And the people who know, and the inverse is also true. The people who know large language modeling, data engineering, and machine learning will not know how to do what I know how to do.
Yeah. And I would say that's the thing where those separations are key. And I think
there's no bridging the gulf.
But the thing is, if I am a machine learning engineer, I have a decent idea that might be within media, then what I would do is start a company, hire someone like a Josh to fill in the gaps of the stuff that I don't know. And that's how those things progress. The other thing I was going to talk about is I was like the social media chatter around Sinners and Marty Supreme, and I was just laughing because like I'm getting better. I'm getting so much better about not responding to dumbness, but I do enjoy reading it. But it is interesting. You
enjoy reading the dumbness.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because it's just like, it's so funny because people just like they're like, yo, Sinners is a greater movie than Marty Supreme, and they only like it because he's white and da-da-da-da-da. And I was laughing because I haven't watched Marty Supreme at all. I might go see it eventually. I heard it's by the Uncut Gems dude, and like that guy's a pretty solid director, so I'd be interested to see what he says. But I think it is funny. We talked about this when we did our Sinners thing, where like there's this weird like sense and need for the online Black community. I'm not gonna say all Black people to have something to hold on to and to like prop it up at this level of like greatness. And we're like, if something's great, yeah, call it great. But like to take something that isn't and then to like almost overhype it, it just makes them look even sillier. And it's like, it is a consistent silliness that I see every single time.
And I think to piggyback on that, it dilutes the effectiveness. What was effective about Sinners gets diluted in the talk of it's brilliant. And it's just like, there are aspects of the movie that are very good. There are aspects of the movie that are not. And I feel like the conversation gets watered down when you can't see it for what it is and call a spade a spade. Like there are things about that movie that are there's nothing about it to my mind that was bad, but there were things that were alright, there were things that were good, there were things that were great. The cinematography was great, top notch. Delroy Lindo was great because he's great in everything. I can't, even bad movies, he's great in. Underneath all of that, it's good to and that's okay. That's fine. But to quote the great Professor D'Angelo, it doesn't rise to, a good movie can be good, but not rise to the cinematic heights of prestige format film. And that's the thing that I think people don't get through. That's something that people don't. That's a distinction that people don't make, and you have to be able to make that distinction in order to be able to understand part. And I don't want to say that everything in Oscar, Golden Globes world is governed by this, because if it was, a lot of movies that don't get nominated and don't get awards would totally get them. But that said, you have to be able to make that distinction. And once you parse that distinction and you know what qualifies as an Oscar-worthy film and why, then you understand what some of, and I by no means am I making excuses for when, their whole tons of years where women don't get nominated for, that women directors, women actresses when women actors don't get nominated strictly because the Oscars are on some shit, or black actors or black directors. Like that's totally a thing. And that's an addition. I don't even want to say it's separate. It's the layer on top of what I'm talking about. But at its base, if you can't make that distinction, then you're going to be disappointed when Angela Bassett doesn't get an award for Best Actress for Wakanda Forever. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be able to make that distinction. And if you don't, then you're going to conflate things. You're going to say that one thing equals another thing when it kind of doesn't. And I feel like as good as Sinners was in the ways that it was good, it doesn't qualify as a prestige format film. I don't think it's racism.
Did anybody watch was it One Battle After Another? The one with Leo and Tiana Taylor? How was it?
Go ahead, D'Angelo.
So I saw it. Well, let me go back to the Sinners thing. I think it's not just that people, because what you said is true about your expectations. I think that's what it is. But most of the audience doesn't watch film and think about film in the same way that we all do. And I think that's obviously why you would get confused about where Sinners stands in terms of Oscar nominations or Golden Globe. But at the same time, those awards should not be what makes the difference anyway. If Sinners is a good film and there's a lot of Black people who agree with that, then that's what it is. It's just what it is. I can't say to them that I can give my reasons why I don't think it's a good film, but that's more of a matter of cinema itself. Yeah, a matter of subject, a matter of cinema, a matter of form, and a matter of style and sense. It's always an objective situation, but all that chatter, it just reminds you that not enough people see enough films, just like not enough people read enough books. And if you don't have that sensibility to go out and see the differences that are out there and available, to compare them to a Ryan Coogler. Is Ryan Coogler a good filmmaker? Yes, in his own right. Is he the best out there right now? No. If I'm judging him in a group that has nothing to do with race or anything like that, he doesn't rank high up there, and neither the Sinners. But again, that doesn't take away from, like you said, the value in the cinematography, the value in some of the performances, the value in in the music, the value in some of his directing choices. It doesn't deviate or diminish that in any way. And you can appreciate both things. You can say that Sinners, it has a very weak script and a weak to bad script. And then at the same time say, but I enjoyed the cinematography that was doing a really strong cinematic visual scale. You can say these things and both be true. And everybody can have I don't know about the Marty Supreme comparison, because to be honest, I think it's only trying to force a comparison between Timothée Chalamet and Michael B. Jordan. And to be honest, that's again going to what Josh said, a failure to understand the differences in what these films did in mode. Sinners is more of an auteur piece. It's not about the acting. It's about the attempts at establishing some kind of visual and narrative style for Ryan Coogler. That's what that is about. It's also about how he, as an artist / entrepreneur, got that deal over the top. That's why I said if there is a movie that could win an award as arbitrary as that achievement in cinema and box office, well, that kind of fits the bill, because it's something that was negotiated in a way that both allowed the artist to be an artist, but also allowed him to be a businessman and make a significant amount of money going forward, and not have to give up all of his ownership to the studio. So there's reasons to celebrate Sinners, and I think, like you said, some of this stuff is just getting lost in this versus that. Michael B. Jordan, I'm just gonna say this, and that was not a performance that should have been nominated for anything. And that's, he's a good actor in some cases, but in most of the time, he's just okay. As far as one battle after the next, I don't know why I can't. What is it? It's one battle after another, right? Yes. One battle after another. It's a very interesting film. I think, I wouldn't call it good or bad. I think it's one of those films that you have to watch it and understand, again, you're watching something of an auteur piece where you're going to find more value in the cinematic, film form and sense. For example, at the very end, in the climax, there is an amazing sequence, chase scene that is going up and down those blind summits. You guys from California, I'm sure you've rode those roads a bunch of times, but the way it's shot, it's almost like the camera is the car. So you're dipping down, and then you're coming up, and and then they're going back and forth between the characters. So it's really revving up the tension of that chase, and the way it ends is I don't want to say it was a surprise, but it was a unique way to punctuate that sequence through the cinematography and the editing. So that's one of the things that I liked about it. And Teyana Taylor's performance was good. I mean, whether you like the characterization of the character or not, what she put into that character, I thought stood out in the film, and was not surprised that that's one of those things where I was not surprised that she A, was nominated, and B, won. Now, I haven't seen a lot of the other things that, were the other competitors' films, but that was a standout performance for better or worse. So, like I said, the film is unique. I enjoyed it to a degree, to an extent. There are things that I disagree fundamentally with the storytelling, but for the most part, I thought it was a solid attempt at doing something different in a sea of sequels and superhero films and all that stuff.
So, question for you: does that movie qualify as prestige format in your mind?
Not really. I mean, I would say that it qualifies as an auteur piece, and that is sometimes gets a lot of attention because auteurs tend to focus on film form and film sense. Again, you have that big sequence, and that was probably the biggest thing that was it Paul Thomas Anderson that he put into the film was that climax in the end. You could tell that there was a lot of thought put into that. But I wouldn't call it a prestige film. No. Not even close.
Cam, what did you think?
I did not like the movie at all. But he's right. The last car chase scene was cool. Like that was something that was a positive for the movie. I want to go back a little bit before I get into one battle after another about how we view movies. I think for the most part, I tend to see people either it's great or not great. There's no middle ground. And going back to Sinners and other movies of that ilk, where I said as a movie that is just being made as a vampire movie, thematically, it's fine. Production-wise, it's fine. It's a good, solid movie. It looks good. It's told in a way that's a solid movie. It's not a movie where I say, oh, that movie was trash. It's a solid movie. I just think with movies are like that and other movies that come into conversation, I think it's just too much unnecessary discourse. And to credit D'Angelo and a couple other people I've heard said the sentiment, people don't watch enough movies. And if you did, it would ease you on how to critique certain films like The Sinners, right? Fast forward to one battle after another. Yes, it's something different. It's not a sequel. It's not like a redo or reboot of anything else. But my issues with the movie lies with, I think the director, this is his own view on how he views certain topics in Black culture and politics. I think this is how he views liberalism in the left side, speaking on a different nuanced conversation. I think a lot of the women were pandering. He's pandering to some, I don't know, man. It was just a weird, I portrayed Black women in this film, with the exception of, I can't think of her name right now, but she was the only one that wasn't overly sexual.
You're thinking of Regina Hall.
Regina Hall's character.
Her character, right? And I forgot the character's name.
Yeah,
but
forgive me.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot of unnecessary fluff. I thought some of the characters were over the top. Sean Penn's character was over the top to me. I am not in agreement that Teyana Taylor did a great job acting. I just think she was playing herself because I've seen in interviews where, you had an opportunity to bring in a character that's an actor and play this particular part, but you brought in Teyana Taylor, and all these actors surrounded her are accomplished thespians where they have a method where Teyana Taylor, I've heard, was kind of winging it. The director told her, there's a history between her and PTA where he saw her somewhere and he was like, this is how I envision this character. And it's pretty much Teyana Taylor kind of playing herself. She wasn't acting. This is her natural character. I'll find the interviews for this. And it didn't move me. There's scenes in there, like there's a bank robbery scene with this grandiose speech. And I'm like, all right, that wasn't necessary. Just rob the bank, right? There's a scene where, if you're part of, like I said, if you really down with the revolution, when it gets real, you still down. There's a scene where somebody gets killed and they all like, damn, are we really down? People snitching. You don't snitch when you're part of a coup trying to overthrow the government. That's not a real thing, right? And I feel like he was kind of glorifying this.
Are you sure that nobody's ever snitched?
No, I'm just saying you're not supposed
as a part of that. You're not supposed to, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
I can give an example.
Framed it as if it doesn't.
No,
happen.
I'm just saying if you really trying to portray the revolution as this hardcore, this group, the French 75 is this group. Well, they already folded. All of them folded. They all snitched. So it's like it's kind of weak to me, so it's kind of slap in the face of.
Wait a minute. back up. What do you mean? Explain that. I don't get what you're saying.
What part?
You said that they all switched.
Yeah, so like the dude gets kidnapped. His family was threatened. He snitched out where they were hiding. Tiana Taylor snitched out the whole French 75, abandoned her kid, left her marriage, right? And even Regina Hall's character, it's not implied. It's kind of implied, but it doesn't show that she told. Then, like they all like broke. So it was like this fake Battle of Algiers, like we're going down with the ship, and they really didn't. Because when that dude got murdered in the bank, the girl that was on top of the desk, she kind of was like freaked out. Is you really down when excuse quote unquote, when shit hits the fan? It isn't. However, that's just a nuance, one part of it, right? Yeah. I just think the director had this was a fantasy of the directors, and then I'm just kind of weirded out because I'm like, all right, you're married to a mixed woman too. Is this how you view Black women? Like, how do you, how does that conversation go? Like,
I think there's definitely, that is part of the critique. I won't diminish that, but there's also a thing called hyperbole, and also the way that figurative language is used in cinema. In films like One Battle After Another, you get a lot of hyperbole. The revolution itself as a narrative device was a MacGuffin, because after all, what were they revolting against? We never got that, except for the government. That's it.
Can I say this part real quick? I thought the story is about a father and daughter and how they dealt with post being a part of a revolution and how they dealt with that. That movie was not that.
No, it wasn't.
So I know what the movie is about. But
the thing about the title, One Battle After Another, is more about that. It's more the way I took it, and again, maybe it's just a matter of interpretation. The way I interpreted the narrative itself was that the One Battle After Another was more about that personal battle that a father and daughter, a single father and his daughter, are having to go through as a result of their past, of his past. Not necessarily a commentary on the effectiveness or not of a would-be revolution. That was just the way I saw it. I'm not saying it's right. I mean, I think both interpretations are there, but the revolution part was very, very secondary to me in viewing of that film. I can't
ignore it though. That's the thing. That's my issue. Because it played a big part in the first act. The first act was weird to me. Like I said, I was confused of where this movie was going. I didn't like the way the director treated his characterization of women and most notably Black women. I thought Leo's character was cool. I thought Benicio del Toro's character, he was really doing the revolution. His it was moving. Look like real revolutionaries. But again, that's if you want to say that's secondary, that's fine. I just found it weird at the end that after all that, the daughter still was trying to be about that life. I thought it was like, yeah, we've seen the destruction of how a revolution or being a part of a revolutionary group broke our family up. The daughter would move on and do something else, and the dad would be okay with it. But it appears that the daughter didn't learn anything after all of that and still wanted to do that, even after what her mother did to her. And so, I don't know. I just looked at the movie a little differently. PTA's got some other work that's better, but I'm starting to look at him a little with a side eye after this last flick. Again, I'm going to go back to the discourse of certain movies. This movie got a lot of praise, like it was the greatest thing on earth, like a Sinners. And when I watched it, I was like, I don't see what everybody else is seeing. But to D'Angelo's credit, is it different from what we've been spoon-fed for the last 20, 25 years? Yeah. This is a little different. It's one of those movies that stand out. Is it great? It's not a great movie to me, but I can see how certain people like it. It has its moments. There's something there that could have been a great story. But I think all of the things that I found wrong with it superseded the positives of this movie. It may get all the praise in the world, and that's another conversation for another day. But again, this comes back to me. I don't see where all the discourse, the movie discourse deserves this kind of discourse. I'm just like, it's an okay movie. That's just my gripe. certain movies do just you do deserve that talk, that discourse, that nuanced conversation. And I said, and when you come out, you're like, oh man, yeah, I get it, right? I don't think this movie was one of them, nor did I think Sinners was one of them either. So,
yeah, I know. I think the overhype, and that's something that that's why I preface it saying Black social media. That's what all the overly hype and just dumbness comes from. But it is interesting to kind of see those discords around what people are talking about, because I haven't watched them yet. And when it first dropped, a lot of people, it was interesting because when I saw the trailer, it looked like kind of like what Cam said, it looked like this maybe anti-revolution type of thing, these people on the run, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, it's an interesting story to sell it. And then when the discord around it came out after, it was less about that. It was more about the portrayal of Black women in it and how a lot of folks didn't like it. And then the Marty Supreme stuff was kind of like, the white protagonist that's screwing everyone over and it's a great, tour de force performance, blah, 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 blah. And then we already know what the Sinners discourse is. So it is always interesting to kind of see the different talks around it. And then when I talk to people that actually watch a lot of films and then hearing what they say, like a Marty Supreme, Paul really liked it. I haven't watched it yet. He was raving about it when I was hanging out with him a couple of days ago. And then One Battle of Love for Another, I defer to you guys because you guys are both watch a lot of films and your takes are a lot more nuanced about the film and those types of things. And I think that's the part where, since we don't have nuance anymore in this world.
You know what? I was gonna say I had no plans to watch it. And I was seeing a lot of negative discourse lately about it after the rush of its praise. And when D'Angelo Washington said it was good, I was like, all right, let me watch this movie, because if D'Angelo says something is good, it may be hella good. And I want to see and challenge what the latter half of the people that didn't like it, why. And so I came to my conclusion. I did not personally like it because of my gripes about it. Again, it's not a bad made movie. It's just not a movie for me. And I'm like, I didn't see what the hype was about it. But I also found humorous too. One of the running jokes was Black Thighs Matter. And they always put the picture of her shooting the gun, which I felt was an unnecessary scene. But that's my gripe against the director. I'm like, how he looks at us. But that's another conversation for another day. And I just thought that was hilarious because it's been a lot of running jokes about that movie. But it's gonna win some awards, if not already. Tiana Taylor, kudos to her. I personally didn't think her performance was all that worthy, but people see it otherwise, and they're not wrong. That's just a matter of opinion. And shout out to her. The one thing I do want to talk about, though, Cam, real quick, is that how Black people, because of our place in society, and especially in film, we have a tendency to gravitate to praise things. The problem is, and this goes back into Aisha Harris's book, how we cannot be critical of our own people, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay to be critical of things, even if it's from your own community, even if we're given the circumstances that we're given currently about how we're looked at, how we're portrayed, how we are given opportunity to do things, right? It's okay to make a bad movie and be critical and like certain things. We don't have to demonize and say this movie was terrible from A to Z. We can say, okay, this movie had some good things, but at the same time, it was cool. But we also have to acknowledge that we can also be very critical of our own thing. But I understand the sentiment of wanting to uphold everything that we do because we don't always get that opportunity to put things out there.
Well, so, that's something that I think you and I have talked about very frequently in terms of, just because it's a Black film doesn't mean it's going to be good. You know what I mean? And that's a trap that we often fall into. And I think we've passed the point where, to sort of amplify Cam's point, I think we've passed the point where just because a Black person is in it and just because a Black person did it doesn't necessarily follow then that it has to be uplifted. It has to be upheld. It has to be considered the next great thing since sliced bread. And, not everything is going to be, it's not going to be, it's not going to be this, the 10 Commandments, you know what I'm saying? Or Lawrence of Arabia. Like, everything's not going to be that. And just because someone Black did it, Like the demand for quality is still there. And I think if we're going to look to uplift Black filmmakers and Black actors, then the quality quotient, I don't want to necessarily kick it on, on the, 10 times better to be twice as good and to get half of what they get. I think that applies and can be true. But I think if you make quality, I think we've ascended to the point now where if it's quality, it will sort of stand on its own and speak for itself a little bit more than making a half-ass movie and then Black people praising it. I think that's the key component here that gets missed in the conversation when you criticize a film like Sinners that is lauded as this brilliant film. And it's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. There are aspects of it that are brilliant. The cinematography is top-notch. I would not be surprised if the cinematographer got an Oscar, because it's one of the best looking movies of the last year, bar none. But, there are other aspects of the film that I think fall a little short, but people praise it because Black people are in it.
But that's not the reason. And so, and here's the reason why I don't give it any kind of weight, because it's not done across the board. Nia DaCosta, for example, just had 28 weeks later, The Bone Temple release, and that film is getting all kinds of praise. But I guarantee none of Black Twitter is talking about Nia DaCosta and 28 weeks later, The Bone Temple. The same way that she did the Marvels, and everybody talked about Ryan Coogler and doing the Black Panther and all that stuff, but she gets no kind of attention. So it's never done across the board in terms of how we look at these things. Now, what's the difference? Her films were not Black focused films. She's a Black filmmaker, but her features are not Black focused. Okay.
Well, she did do Hedda last year, which was the one with Tessa Thompson. Like more small,
and that's getting a lot of praise as well.
Yeah, and so she does both, and that makes her and so does Ryan Coogler. He's done both things. Most of his stuff is Black focused feature, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there is that distinction where you can have a Black filmmaker do a film that has nothing to do with Black culture or the experience of being a Black person in this world, or a person that identifies as Black in this world. Most people didn't even know for years that Spike Lee directed Inside Man. Most people did not know that. Yep. Why? Because for years, Spike Lee did Black focused films.
Yeah.
There's a difference, and not enough people understand the difference to even talk about it. And yet,
here we are.
Do.
Well, I'm gonna leave it right there. Thank you for listening to Pod Without Nothing, where we just like rant about random shit.
Pod Without Nothing? Wow.
Or I'll say, you know what? Pod About. Where we just do randomness. Yes. No intro, just cold, just like rant on randomness. And as you can tell, we're all over the place. Yeah, exactly. We're all over the place. But also, it's a lot of times when we're in these types of modes, this is how we talk normally anyways.
I was gonna say this is us before we hit record.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
So, but yeah, we like to also like record it and show it out to everybody else. But as always, thanks for rocking with us. Likes, subscribes, follows, shares. What's the other one? I think that's it. I think that's tell a friend.
I think that's it.
Comment.
Yeah.
Drop a comment.
We got a Discord.
Oh, yeah. Drop the Discord. We have a new Discord in there. We're always dropping a lot of gems in there as well. But yeah, man, tell a fan, and things have been kind of good. So see you guys soon. Peace.